Kate LaFalcia. Welcome to Psychics and Psychos. Which is which? You guys choose.
I'm the psychic, you're the psycho. I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay. I embrace it.
I'm just joking.
So that joker over there, Denise SIEGEL, and I'm Irish Granny Helen, and we're here to do our psychic thing about our most recent topic of conversation as far as psychos go, which is the world's ultimate psycho, at least he used to be, Charlie Manson. And by the time you see this, you will all have watched the 4 videos that I've made as a lead up. I did a biography of him. I did the kind of the context of the family, all the peripheral people we're going to look at and the women in it. I did a video on the crimes themselves without dwelling on, and then finally, I did some really interesting psychological analyses that I got off the internet from a couple of different doctors who do that. One is a psychologist, therapist / behavior analyst expert. And so he watched videos of Manson and said what his impressions were, which was really cool. The other is a guy who is like this total brainiac. His name is Andrew Van de Vaart. I think I said that right. He's a PhD and a medical doctor. And I love his channel because he tends to wax literary. He'll go, he looked at Kohberger, the Idaho murderer.
Right.
And he looked at him in the context of Raskolnikov, Dostoevsky, Crime and Punishment.
Right.
So it's really fun. And he had a really interesting take on Manson that you'll have to watch that video. I'm not going to.
Okay.
So today, what are we doing, Denise?
We're doing the Manson family.
No, I mean, you're doing the
astrology.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm doing the
cards.
That's right. Very good. Just making sure.
Fill in the blank. Yeah.
Okay. So let's just get started because we have several people to cover.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yeah. So who do you want to start with?
Well, why don't we do this? I mean, obviously we are really well prepared.
I'm not prepared. You are, but I'm just looking at the astrology.
Okay. I have the cards all
You've done it. Right.
How about we do it this way? You do the chart on a person and immediately I'll do the cards and then we go to the next person.
Okay, sure. Who do you want to start with?
Charlie.
All right. Let's look at Charlie then. Okay. I'm going to pull up my Charlie Manson. Okay. Charlie Manson, is quite an interesting character in that he has the Sun, Venus, Jupiter, and Mercury all in Scorpio. Now, in this, it looks like it's in his 7th. I've seen it be in his 8th house. He's got the Moon and the Node conjunct, which is, and Ceres and the South Node and Pluto.
No, I don't know. You're going to.
Okay, so what this means is he comes in with, first of all, the Moon nodal conjunction. First of all, Moon in Aquarius and the 10th is somebody. It's a very debilitated moon. Okay. So that means basically a number of things. One is his childhood. His mother was not a good mother, was somebody very neglectful. That's just the Moon in Aquarius, somebody who in the 10th house, who's kind of cold and sort of a user type of personality. With the node on that conjunction is the the North Node, which is, even worse than the South Node, is all about the mom being having a lot of shadow stuff, a lot of darkness. He himself would carry that energy. That's his own karmic stuff. I do know a little bit about his childhood. I know that his mother was a prostitute. I think she gave him away or something like that. Or when he was 3, he was basically having to kind of fend for himself. And that Moon in Aquarius being debilitated means it can kind of, in the best case scenario, a Moon in Aquarius is someone who really has a hard time processing their feelings and sort of has delayed reaction and tries to sort of kind of disassociates. In the case of Charlie here, with the note on it, there's also, besides the sort of dissociation, there's also the node, which is a lot of shadow stuff, a lot of fear about being different, about not fitting in. And that moon node in the 10th is not being nurtured and feeling like a weirdo, like he doesn't fit in anywhere and nobody really loves him or cares about him. And that would be the driver, because it squares all of his Mercury and his Jupiter, and part of in that whole stellium in Scorpio, a lot of his behavior. So the South Node in Leo is in the 4th with Ceres conjunct it and Pluto nearby in Cancer, but it's still conjunct it pretty tightly, which means his childhood, again, it goes back to his childhood. That indicates a mother who is very self-centered, who he wants attention like a normal kid would, but mom is kind of the focus of all the attention. Mom is all about herself. She doesn't really nurture him. She sort of, it's all about her own kind of needs. And the Pluto and Cancer conjunction is also kind of controlling and potentially, and seen by him as being, you know, a powerful figure, but also because that moon ruler is part tied into this, kind of cold, and also I would say transformed his life. And probably this is the seat of a lot of his emotional problems. He also has a Uranus square to that. Again, that's neglect and trauma in childhood. And it rules his moon. So there's a lot of, he's very self-absorbed. It's all kind of about him. And one of the things you really see a lot in people who end up being cult leaders is the nodal, like a node conjunct something, and especially in the 10th house, which it becomes like their career, their thing. He wants to be special. He wants to be seen. He knows he's really charismatic. He's got Uranus near his first house. And with the node moon conjunction, he has charisma and he can tap into people's shadow stuff. He can kind of go in there. Plus, he's got this stellium in Scorpio, which is, for as messed up as he is, he would be interested in kind of psychology, reading people. He would be pretty kind of intuitive, kind of psychic. He can kind of manipulate. He's also obviously got all these, 7th house planets, which means he really needs sort of an audience or group or other people to sort of support him. And with that Mercury, Jupiter, he can speak in a way that seems very spiritual. And in Scorpio, it's, with all of these other things. Now, Scorpio can be a great thing. You see it a lot in people who are like psychologists and therapists, because they can kind of read people and see through people. They want to go deep in and kind of excavate, the unconscious. But in his case, he's really using it kind of to manipulate other people. He gets himself. He understands his own motivations, and he uses those against other people to get them to comply or to do what he needs or what he wants to do. He's also got a Saturn square to his sun, Saturn and Aquarius squares. So that's a missing father. The father, he doesn't really, in this case, in the 11th, the sort of the father who, again, like the mother, is erratic, he doesn't know the father. That Saturn and Aquarius in the 11th is like a double whammy of dad being sort of, in erratic thing. So I don't know if he even ever knew his father, but if he did, even if he had known his father probably would have been kind of hard on him with that Saturn square to the sun. His father would have been erratic with him, just like the mother would have come and gone. And with it being in one of his natural rulers, is very intense. So he really feels put upon, Charlie, with that Saturn square the sun and Venus. And this is another driver for his behavior of needing attention and needing an audience and kind of all of the childhood trauma and past life stuff. Because if you remember from all the other psychics and psychos, almost every single serial killer and also a lot of victims have this too. They have nodal conjunctions. So there's shadow stuff from past lives that come in to this life that they're meant to work through. But in the case of Charlie, he used it to kind of build himself a cult. Aquarius is also communal. So he basically had a commune cult, right? The other thing he's got going on is he's got the Mars-Neptune conjunction in Virgo. So which sextiles his Venus. And that kind of, he's able to sort of cast sort of a spell over people, especially women, young women and girls, anybody he's sleeping with. He's able to be weirdly tuned into them sexually. And also, he's able to also manipulate them through religious fervor, through spirituality. He's able to sort of create a glamour around himself. And I could see why, if in a better circumstances, he probably could have been a musician with a lot of this Aquarius and that Mars Neptune. He does have a creative streak, and he probably, I know he wrote some songs, and that would fit that Mars Neptune. But in his case, he really, the primary focus was on manipulating other people, although he did have some creative abilities, it looks like. So he's also got
ask you something?
Squaring his moon. Yes.
You talked about his node, and serial killers and victims both seem to have nodes.
No conjunctions. Yeah.
Doesn't everybody have some
No.
sort of, no, okay. Sorry
No.
to interrupt. Okay.
No, it's no. Nodal conjunctions, especially when they're this tight, because the node is exactly conjunct his moon. It's at 4 degrees, and so is his moon. It squares his ascendant, and it squares his Mercury, and it's opposing his Ceres south node, Pluto conjunction. So nodal conjunctions are, I wouldn't say they're necessarily rare, but they're not necessarily common either. Most people don't have them. And nodal conjunctions basically are indicators of, so the nodes control sort of, they're the shadow part of your chart. So they kind of, any kind of past life unresolved issues come through the nodes. Saturn rules part of your karmic fate, and Pluto another part.
But doesn't everybody have that?
Everybody has Saturn and Pluto, and they have those planets. So wherever your Saturn is, so his Saturn's in Aquarius, there's issues with neglect, with needing to be seen, with being parts of groups, with wanting sort of having to be part of the crowd rather than be special, like a Leo kind of energy. And
doesn't
Pluto,
everybody have karmic stuff that they bring in with them? That would be the nodes.
yes, they do. They do.
Okay, but you said
They do, but they don't. They're not like this.
Oh, okay.
So everybody has nodes, right?
Okay.
So if your node is not occluding one of your planets, basically, then it's not something that overwhelms your personality. Okay, so the difference
depends on its position.
It depends on its position. If
That's what I wasn't getting. Okay.
Yeah, everybody has nodal information in their chart.
Okay.
So everybody has a north node and a south node, and the north node and the south node indicate, what you're afraid of and how you respond to that fear. But people who, and this is from past lives, basically, and it colors how you see and how you deal with this lifetime, because there are issues that you need to address in your lifetime. Now, in this case, when you have a node right on a planet like this, and he has multiple planets on his node, and he's got all kinds of squares to it, which also puts pressure on the nodes. It means that you have had this issue repeating over and over and over again in other lifetimes, and it hasn't been addressed. So what happens is, instead of it being a shadow thing in the back of your unconscious that kind of guides your life, sort of like a little thing that is in the closet that you kind of feel but don't understand,
Like dominates. Yeah.
dominating and primary, and it becomes sort of overwhelms those planets with shadow stuff. So the moon is also an indicator of past lives, and it being in Aquarius, the North Node right on top of it tells us that, you know, he has issues with women, with love, with his emotions, being cold, being calculating, using people in the 10th house. And this is a pattern in other lifetimes that he came to sort of learn to sort of untangle and look at himself so that he doesn't continue doing that, because he's done that over and over. Your node kind of gets closer and closer to a planet the less you deal with it. So if another lifetime he was, in my opinion, this is what happens. If he addressed the same issue and it was more of like a niggling little thing in the background of his life, and he dealt with those feelings, he wouldn't have a nodal conjunction like this. So basically what happens is you have a buildup of shadow stuff that's not addressed. You have a lifetime of walking sort of the wrong path over and over and over again, and you haven't dealt with this major karmic issue. And in this lifetime, you have no choice but to kind of address it. And that's what happens when you have a nodal conjunction to major planets like the moon, in his case, South Node, Ceres, and Pluto. So he's coming in with this desire to control other people with that Pluto, Ceres, South Node to get love and attention that he wants. He's coming in with this feeling of needing to be part of a group or be special or do something big in the world and be known for something, because he hasn't been able to accomplish that in other lifetimes without doing it in a negative way. So being infamous rather than famous, and being known for something good rather than something bad. So this kind of implies he's kind of this isn't his first rodeo doing dark and bad things, which is very likely why he was born into this very chaotic situation, to kind of push him to look at himself, to break him so that he could grow. I mean, he has opportunities here with the Uranus-Pluto square to learn about himself, to get help, to decide to change and transform himself. But he ended up using those aspects in a very dark and terrible way. There's other people born on this day besides Charlie Manson who didn't do this. So other people, obviously, who were born around the same period of time didn't choose to do what he did with this. So now also his moon nodal thing is exact. And, you know, unless you're born with that and this configuration, you still, his darkness is overwhelming and very intense. He's even got Psyche on his North Node as well. I mean, he's got a lot of nodal stuff going on, and all those planets in Scorpio themselves, I'm not going to say Scorpios there's in astrology, there's every sign has like 3 levels. Scorpio is the most famous for that. There's a Scorpion, which is the lowest level, which is the stinger, the person who wants to get back at you, who's holds a grudge and who's got a lot of like spite. And it's sort of the negative Mars kind of energy. Then there are people who are the next level, which is called the eagle, which they fly above that stuff. They try to use it psychologically and transform themselves. And then there's the phoenix, which are the very evolved Scorpios who use their insight and gifts of understanding and psychology and their sort of preternatural ability to sort of see through people to help others, right? Charlie is using the Scorpio, the stinger kind of energy.
Yeah.
Right? And he's the dark Scorpio. He's the dark one. And even
That's
his
interesting because, you know, I'm sure you know this, that supposedly every sign, every sun sign has like a physical feature that it rules, right? And I know about Scorpios because I have a daughter who's a Scorpio, and their significant feature is their eyes.
Right.
She has gorgeous eyes. You know, I am her mother, but still, she has gorgeous eyes. And it's interesting to me because when you look at a picture of Charlie Manson, it's the eyes that.
Right. Yeah. They can see through people, and they have a lot of depth, which is why probably people trusted him. He also would have had Neptune going over all of those planets in Scorpio during the time he was building his cult, which makes sense too. So people, he was able to kind of tune into people and use their weaknesses or be able to sort of prey on young women,
Sorry.
and sexually manipulate them. He's good at that. I mean, his mother, I think, was a prostitute as well. And so he grew up in that kind of hypersexualized, he's cold though. He's got that moon in Aquarius with the note on it. He's a cold person, and he's got it squaring his ascendant, his descendant, and opposing series. So he's also got this real dark ambition as well going on in his chart. And that's sort of what drives him as well. He's very ambitious in a lot of ways as well.
Well, that's true too, the ambition. So you want me to
tell
you where it was an interesting chart, because you hit on a lot of the high points. So I would describe him. I got his cards already picked out and ready to go. But before I look at them, I would tell you, considering what you said, I consider him a child with unmet needs his whole life.
Yeah.
He acted that out, right? So you said his mother was neglectful and dark, and he has all these needs that didn't get met by her. His mother was 16 when she got pregnant. She was wild. I'm sure she had psychological.
Yeah, she probably did.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
She
That's
got
what the nodal
pregnant
conjunction
by a slightly older guy. He was in his 20s when she was 16. This is hilarious. His first name was Colonel, like not a title, his name.
That's weird.
But she, as a 16-year-old, thought he was a colonel.
Oh, wow.
And so when she told him that she was pregnant, he told her he had to go somewhere for the army.
Oh, wow.
And bailed. Just left her high and dry. She ended up getting married again, and the guy that she got married to was an alcoholic, and there was a lot of discord, and he's just completely surrounded by chaos and psychological psychopathology, right? So he did have, you said he had a fear of fitting in, that he was a weirdo. He went from pillar to post as a child, friends of the family, relatives, other relatives. An aunt and uncle got him for a while. The uncle didn't like him, called him a sissy, dressed him like a girl, and sent him to school in a dress.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's harsh. Saturn square.
Yeah, you're talking about people being born with these conjunct nodes. Listen to me sounding like I know what I'm talking about.
Nodal conjunctions,
that karmic issues that dominate their lives. My question would be, if you're born with that, and as a result of the situation you're born into at a very early age, formative age, like, I don't know, like somebody we all know who went when he was 2 years old, his mother was
right.
Almost, yeah. So
he has nodal conjunctions too. Yeah.
Your developmental needs are not met, and there's serious long-term damage that goes unaddressed. Who's to blame for that? Is that's not a choice that you're not addressing the challenges of your node?
No. Well, no. I think what happens when you have a nodal conjunction like that, you do see, like you said, who shall not be named has a lot of that nodal stuff too.
Yeah.
And Manson has the same kind of thing with the node on the moon. That's in Manson's case, it's more extreme even than in he who shall not be named. It's not as bad as Manson's is, and it's not as triggered by everything else in his chart. But so this begs the question, right? So the node on the moon is also a disturbed mother, and in a good chart, like somebody who doesn't have all kinds of, who's dealing with the shadow stuff, sometimes the node in the moon will be conjunct, and that can have a different energy, which is that you feel like you are responsible for your parent, that you need to parent your parent, or you feel like, there's some kind of karmic thing with the parent. But in the case of Manson and he who shall not be named, it's not just the nodal conjunction to the moon. There's also stuff on the south node. And so when people have stuff on both nodes, I believe that, like, you could say, yeah, sure, He, he didn't have a choice. He was obviously born into this really negative situation, and he didn't get his needs met. But he went from person to person. I think he also went into juvie pretty early. I think his mom also was a prostitute as well, from what I read.
Oh, well, his mother and her brother, his uncle, were partners in crime. They would go to bars. She would romance somebody, lure him into the parking lot. They'd knock him over the head and rob him.
Wow.
She went to prison for that. She
Okay.
also was in sex work.
Right.
He spent his entire childhood from about the age of 8, the rest of his life, in and out of institutions.
That's what I thought. Yeah. Well, so that is like, so you could think about it this way, right? So say, for example, in many lifetimes, you've done similar things. Like you've been the criminal, you've been the shadow person, you've taken advantage of people, you've hurt them, you've chosen the shadow path, which that's what the nodal conjunctions, all tight on planets, represent. And I'm not talking about one nodal conjunction, or Charlie has a lot of them, and so does he who shall not be named, and so do a lot serial killers often have a number of things on their node and their nodes. I think that the universe kind of puts you into a situation that's really difficult because you have created so much difficulty for others that you're kind of broken to learn what it feels like to be on the receiving end of that.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, people with all this nodal stuff, they can learn that. And if they do learn that, if they go into therapy, if they try to be a better person, their entire life and everything going forward changes dramatically. So, and I don't think you start out with having this much stuff on you probably have one lifetime with some nodal conjunction.
Mm-hmm.
If you deal with it, then what happens is, like, for example, I have someone in my astrology class who has a nodal conjunction, and she says she remembers a lifetime in which she was an executioner and she cut people's heads off. Now that's her nodal conjunction, but she has chosen to be a good person, to do spiritual work and everything. And so when you do that, you basically,
you ameliorate the damage, right?
You ameliorate the damage, but you also don't just do that. It's like the universe, if you deal with it, it's almost like and I know you don't play video games, but for most people who have played a video game, they'll understand this metaphor, is that there is kind of like, there's levels to the game. There's levels to your life. If you face your fear and you dig into that node and you decide to transform it and learn the lesson, you get to the next level and life becomes easier. Then you dig into it again, and life, you continue to it's sort of a key in your chart for, if you actually do the work that the node is conscripting you to do, then everything changes for the better. But what you see with people who have so much stuff on the nodes is what you're saying. It's like they come in with so much shit that they have to deal with. There's so much damage
that they don't have even the most basic tools to begin to address it.
Right.
How do you blame an 8-year-old for the mess that he was born into and the damage done to him?
Well, you don't blame an 8-year-old, but you blame the soul of the person who probably has done some very bad things and who chose a really hard life in this to kind of learn how it feels and what it's like to be on the receiving end of that. And hopefully in this life, they might learn those lessons and not repeat those mistakes. Maybe, unfortunately, that's the problem with the nodal stuff. The more you don't address it, the harder the lesson becomes, and the harder it is to overcome it. And that's the weird thing about it.
Well, if you think of your soul, if you think of the spirit that is incarnating, just in electromagnetic terms, because I'm just doing a little analogy here, it's like if you have electricity going into a battery, the battery's broken. And if you have this spirit, this soul trying to function in a damaged brain, where does the responsibility lie when your brain is so damaged? Because I believe his was.
Oh,
that
yeah.
you can't make good choices because you don't have the capacity.
Well, that's another thing that the nodes indicate often is mental health issues when you have a lot of stuff on the nodes. And I believe that sort of, again, so I think that the way we incarnate is your soul has an energetic signature. And when you're born, that energetic signature is infused into your chart, right? Or into your body. So if you come with a lot of distortions spiritually, you've done a lot of negative things, you've chosen the shadow path, you are very attached to physical things, you're not very evolved, then you're infusing your chart with that. So that is also why, so, I mean, it's sort of one of those things, everything emanates from the spiritual to the physical, I think. And so his circumstances and his mental health stuff come partially from his energetic pattern that he brought with him. So I'm not saying it's his fault in this lifetime. I'm just saying that he comes in with so much heavy karmic, really dark shadow stuff that you're right. I mean, he doesn't have really much of a chance. You know what I'm saying? And that's the sad part. And sometimes people choose these paths and they don't have nodal things. And that you can tell, well, that is clearly a choice in this lifetime to start walking the shadow path.
Starting on that direction.
Starting on that path, yeah.
Okay, so you talked about him. I'm feeling pressured now for time here because we have a few people to go through. I just find him very interesting.
He is interesting. Yeah.
You were talking about him being into manipulation, like a cult leader, that he was charming and he would manipulate people, and he knew he was doing it, and he was doing it intentionally. Very astute, because when he was in prison, he took a big course on Dale Carnegie, how to make friends and influence people.
Oh, wow.
And Scientology.
Oh, wow.
He had like 108 of those weirdos. I shouldn't say that, they'll come after me. Those sessions,
Right.
Yeah.
He was a Scientologist too. That's so weird. Wow.
I'm not sure he ever officially was, but I think through the prison, he met people who were and he actually sent a couple of family members to deal with Scientologists in England. And he was putting tentacles out. He was a scary character. He also told his girls that he was Jesus.
Yes, right. That's the spiritual manipulation.
Let's look at his cards really quickly. We don't have to belabor the point. There's nothing good here. So at the heart of his cards, I use the horror tarot.
Oh, that makes sense.
It seemed appropriate. So I get the Seven of Pentacles crossed by the reversed Six of Cups.
Oh, wow, liar.
And so that's a lot about the past clouding your judgment, the past affecting the now.
Yes.
Right? Your entire life is, all your efforts are because of trauma and past things that have happened to you as a child.
Well, but also the Seven of Swords too, being the indicator card, is like he was a pathological
liar. The Seven of Pentacles.
Oh, the Seven of Pentacles. Okay.
Yeah. So like all his these material world efforts, his musical career, and just everything he did was a flop because it was imbued with the mental illness and the trauma.
Yes, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
But he got the Ace of Pentacles, the Ace of Pentacles out in the atmosphere, which is like instability and missed opportunities.
Huh.
Reversed, sorry.
Reversed, that makes sense.
Yeah. And the reversed Ace of Swords. It's like everything is abbreviated.
Unclear.
Everything is stopped before it gets started, right? So this is a shaky start.
Yeah.
Built on mental confusion, lack of clarity, and poor communication. Boom. But then we got his past, and I just thought, God, if you had to pick a card to represent his past, the Fool.
Oh.
So my context for this reading was him specifically right around the time of the crimes. So he was out of prison. He was done with that part of his life, in his opinion. He was venturing into the music world and into the family world. They were going to set up a community in the desert underground to escape the upcoming race war.
Right.
And he was going to have a big global musical career.
Right.
So, just crazy, naive,
Delusional.
delusional.
Mars
Exactly.
Neptune conjunction.
Exactly.
Yeah, delusional.
But he felt like he paid his dues to society, and was looking forward to all these new projects, which were just crazy. In the near future for him at the time, I got, where is it? The 10 of Cups, which he has all these ambitions.
Women. Yeah.
Oh, women too. Yeah.
Yeah.
But all these ambitions for what he's going to do in the future. He really was kind of a planner and a schemer, but it was a chaotic mess to the whole thing. Here, let me turn my page over. This is him. I think this is so interesting, and this is the environment that he sits in. The Lovers reversed, and the King of Cups. So it's like somebody who is in an environment of troubled relationships and the emotional connections in his life from birth on, including all the women that he's manipulating, are just a no-go. That they're unfulfilling, his emotional needs not being met, disharmony, chaos, bad decision making. And then check this card out because it cracks me up. The eyeballs on this thing reminds me of him, actually. The Magician.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and wasn't he, though? Isn't that funny?
That is funny.
He thought he could do anything. He was a megalomaniac in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And then ultimately, the outcome, I got the 8 of Wands reversed, crossed by Strength. So he deludedly thought that he could do anything, that he was all powerful, he was Jesus, but he didn't ever actually complete anything. His life was stalled. Big plans stopped short by chaos and stalled. And eventually, his whole life was what's the word I want? Stalled is the best thing I can think of. Well, what else would you call prison?
Yeah, he was incarcerated. Yeah. Well, I mean, the other thing I want to say is there are a lot of people that have very tumultuous childhoods who have a lot of trauma, and they don't turn into Manson either. You know what I mean? I'm not saying
depends on who you talk to.
I'm sure that some people who, I know that people who have really tumultuous and terrible childhoods can have mental health issues. They can have depression. They can have personality disorders that come from it, but they don't necessarily want to kill people and go to the extreme that he went to and how dark his character was. You know what I'm saying? And so that's the nodal stuff too.
I think it's rare that a person comes to full adulthood without some sort of trauma.
It is rare. Yeah, absolutely.
Parenting is difficult. I have more compassion for my parents now than I did years ago. Because,
sure.
Sometimes you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. And not
absolutely.
To say that excuses should be made for poor parenting, but it's just people struggle without guidance a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I know one person, and I'm not going to say their name, but I know someone who had a very, really, really, really traumatic childhood, probably, on par with Manson, where they were abducted and by someone from their father, when the mom was trying to leave the father, abducted and sexually abused with sister, was one of 3 kids, only one to survive into adulthood, because that's how neglectful and bad her parents were. Moved every few months, never went to the same school for more than 3 months. The stories are endless. And granted, this person does have problems. They're not, they have a personality disorder, I think, as a result of all that trauma, but they're not going around murdering people. They're annoying and they're very self-centered, but they're not necessarily evil. You know what I'm saying? they don't want to hurt people on purpose or whatever. They've got a lot of problems. And so that's the difference between someone having nodal conjunctions and not. It's like you can have a very traumatizing childhood, but your instinct isn't to just go and like try to harm everybody and gather a cult and murder people. That comes from lifetimes where you have done some dirty deeds and your soul is dark, in my opinion, and you've not your first rodeo with doing and going to the shadow, the darkest parts of human nature. So while he had a very traumatic childhood, I don't think that's an excuse for his choices of trying to murder people and
Well,
all that.
would you say that it's true that people that have this sort of psychopathology, just a general level of psychopathology, the more they're capable of acting out on their darker urges, it feeds it and it spirals into something
Yes, I think it gets worse. Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's true even on a spiritual level. You do that in one lifetime and you get, and then you do it in the next. And it's like, it just grows. It's just like if you, it's kind of the opposite of a gift of spirit. You work on your spirituality through your life. You have gifts when you come into the next lifetime. But if you're walking a dark road and you're doing bad things, you're also bringing that with you. So the love you bring with you and your development, also the hate and the shadow stuff and the evil comes with you too. So whatever you choose in your life kind of is how you develop your spiritual.
What's that Beatles lyric? The love you make is equal to the love you. The love you take is equal to the love you make.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But I think that's true. I think those are the only things you bring with you is your decisions, whether you're going to harm or you're going to help. And if you spend a lot of your lifetimes harming others, you come in with a lot of that energy still. You're not an evolved person. You come in with all this darkness.
Yeah. So our next, we could talk about him all day, quite frankly.
Yeah, I know.
Our next person is Sharon Tate, who, I was just briefly looking at my notes this morning to refresh my memory because it's been ages since I wrote all this out.
Sure.
And, I had kind of momentarily forgotten she was only 26.
She was young, huh?
She was a baby. Yeah. That's a very sad situation. I am eager to hear what you get in her chart because doing her cards, which I did yesterday, I got like a double-barreled set of informations about her. Some of it about one thing and some of it about her death.
Yeah, I'm wondering, when was she killed? Well, was she killed in 1968?
Oh, do I have to know that?
I'm just curious.
Yeah, I think it was 1968. I'm trying to remember how old I was.
Was it the summer of 1968 or when was she murdered?
I think, let me just very quickly, because I don't want to lie to people.
I know.
I'm pretty loose with facts. Oh, 1969.
1969. When in 1969 was she murdered?
August 19th.
August 19th.
I believe. I think I saw that quickly. Yeah.
Okay.
No, August 9th. August
9th. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it was summertime. I remember that. I was babysitting late.
Well, that must have been creepy. Oh, what am I doing? That's not right. Damn it. August 9th.
Some weird time, Denise. Wow.
The 60s?
There was just one thing after another. It was unreal. Shocking things, Robert Kennedy Sr., Martin Luther King, Medgar Evers, Kent State. I lived in Santa Barbara, and during that whole period of time with all the demonstrations and protests going on, they burnt the Bank of America to the ground.
Wow.
Yeah, did you know that?
No, I didn't know.
So just outside of Santa Barbara is the University of Santa Barbara, University of California, Santa Barbara. And the little community of dorms and student buildings, apartment buildings that grew up around there, it's called Isla Vista.
Right.
And it's just basically an extension of the university, but there are little businesses and stuff. And there was a Bank of America. and students were having a protest, and I don't remember. I was fairly young. I didn't follow, a deep factual thing. But I had a big picture on my bedroom wall of the Bank of America in flames. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Okay, so
Weird.
Sharon, it's interesting that she also has, again, like I said, victims will also often have nodal things as well for some weird reason. She has Venus conjunct her south node in Aquarius in the 8th house of death, and the north node in Leo with Chiron on it in the 2nd house. So now she was an Aquarius. It looks like Mercury was conjunct her sun. She was probably very bright. She has Uranus trining it and Saturn trining it. She was probably a very bright woman and a little different. She's got a grand air trine with Neptune trining it as well, trining Uranus and the sun, Mercury. So very bright. And I don't know much about her career or much about her because she, like you said, she was young. I don't think she really got a chance to do much really with her life yet.
Her career was just really
taking off.
Yeah.
Right. Well, so what I'm noticing is when she was murdered, her sun had just progressed into Pisces in the 8th house. And that's significant because Pisces rules victimization and loss.
Ooh.
And the 8th house is death. And she had Uranus right on her Neptune, which is loss, like sudden loss of life possible. It's part of that grand air trine. And she's got the moon was going over Jupiter, opposing her progressed Mars in the 6th. So that's like, there's so many things here, so many Uranian things, totally unexpected. Obviously, she wasn't even the target, I don't think, originally. But yet she was murdered, and Mars is in her 5th house, opposing her Uranus Saturn. So, really vicious, kind of awful murder. The baby was cut out from her, I think, and Neptune was squaring her Venus and her south node. So it was right on the square to the nodes. So in terms of like her personality and who she was, her sun in Mercury in the 7th, she was very partnership oriented. I know she was married to Polanski. He probably married her because she was also really brilliant, really interesting person, really smart, probably had a unique perspective. It's interesting. She's got Mars here in Sag ruling her 10th. It's she doesn't really have the chart of an actress exactly. So that's interesting too. She's got the moon in Virgo again, very analytical. So the nodes here with the north node in Leo and the Chiron in Leo and the south node, it's interesting because I think they both have, so even though they're not born that far apart, I guess, Manson and her, they both have their nodes in Aquarius and Leo reversed. So his north node in Aquarius and his south node in Leo is all about, he wants attention. He that's what he expects. And he's kind of struggles with being one of the crowd. Hers is the opposite. She's used to being one of the crowd. She's used to sort of being in groups. She's got that on her Venus. She's used to being different from other lifetimes. And in this lifetime, she was there to sort of, and this is the interesting thing about the acting thing. Her north node in Leo conjunct her Chiron in the 2nd house. Like she came here to really learn to be seen and not be afraid to be seen. But ultimately, with all that shadow stuff, and she's got a Pluto opposition to her sun as well. So she's got a kite going on. So she was very, probably very lucky in most areas of her life, except for this one, where she was murdered. The North Node Chiron conjunction is trying to overcome your fear of being seen, of having value, of taking your power. And as soon as she started doing that, she was cut down, literally, and she was killed. So I know this sounds weird, but in some way she overcame her nodal things because
Right. She did what she needed to do.
she needed to do what she did what she needed to do, and she learned what she needed to learn. And perhaps, like, you know, that was, you know, and just the aspects that day were so bad that they got confused and they actually killed her instead of they thought that was, didn't they think it was Terry Melcher's house?
That, you know, that's the thing. There's a lot of debate still to this day because, you know, they all lied.
Right.
Terry Melcher and oh God, what's her name? The puppet guy's daughter, Candace Bergen,
Oh,
lived
right.
in that house.
The puppet
And
guy's daughter.
Charlie, I couldn't remember. Charlie knew that. And he had a falling out with Dennis Wilson and Terry Melcher because he thought he was going to be the next, you know, musical superstar, and they didn't. And he felt kind of betrayed by them.
Mm-hmm.
So he targeted that house thinking they were still there, Terry Melcher and Candace Bergen. Well, Candace Bergen and Terry Melcher had broken up, and Terry Melcher had moved out, and the people that were living there, he didn't really know. I mean, he kind of knew, but not really. And it was one of those kind of vague, lot of lies going on about it. He was associating the house with Terry Melcher.
Well, that's what I thought.
It really didn't matter who lived there in his mind. It was an act of revenge against Terry Melcher. Yeah.
Right. Crazy. But yeah, so I mean, that it's interesting though that she has all that stuff, and it's clear that let me go back to her chart, that she was able to kind of fulfill what she came to fulfill, and then she passed, and that her son had just moved into Pisces, squaring her Uranus. It was almost like, and I'm not saying this is, I mean, I'm not saying that she should have been murdered, and by any stretch of the imagination.
No, I know you're not.
But it's almost like, okay, she did her thing, and that sun Uranus is like something happened. If she hadn't been murdered, she might have died in a car accident, or something else might have happened, because she has a lot of stuff going on that was dangerous going on in her chart. It's like she had done her mission, and she had that sun square Uranus.
Wait till you hear. I did her chart. I did her cards.
Yeah.
I'd done all this research, right? And it didn't occur to me to research Roman Polanski. But I did yesterday, and I did his cards. Oh my God. So I can hardly wait to tell you.
Okay.
Shall I tell you?
Go with, I'm good with, you want to talk about.
So you're right. She wasn't the target. And putting her cards together with Polanski's cards, which I'll go into in a little more detail separately, I got the message that she actually had a conflict in her life, that they were not getting along all that rosy.
Right.
I don't think he was as married to the notion of a wife and a child and putting down roots as she was. I don't have any, it's just, I'm getting this from the cards. Okay?
Right.
That she kind of was a romantic, and he was out gallivanting. Right. And there's a reason for it. And it is weird, which we'll get to on his thing.
Okay.
So let me do her card. So at the heart, and this is so weird, at the heart of her reading, she gets the Wheel of Fortune reversed with the Two of Pentacles. I think she had a conflict between being a mom and being an actress. I think she was successful. She was the new hot thing. I think she was conflicted about it. She was really into being pregnant and having this baby. And then the Wheel of Fortune reverse is on bad luck, you know? So she was at the mercy of the chaos that Manson brought into her life. And you're making an explanation for that. I listened to what I wrote down yesterday. She was caught in a cycle that was there to teach her something she needed to learn. That's what the cards are saying. She was overwhelmed literally by an ambush in the house, but she was overwhelmed by the choice in her life. She was really struggling. And she probably felt stuck and was questioning her priorities, work versus motherhood. So then we get in the atmosphere, the Knight of Cups reversed. This is about, and I think this is about Polanski. moodiness, instability in her environment, broken promises, unrealistic romantic expectations. I don't think this has anything to do with her death. I think this is about her relationship.
Relationship with Polanski, yeah.
Right. And at the foundation, she gets the Two of Wands. This is about her nesting, settling down for motherhood, planning for this, the life that she really was excited about that was coming up. He was pushing her career. He had money to make from it, right? So, and then Hollywood too, if you're only as good as the last movie that you made. And if you're not always doing movies, you're forgotten very quickly. In the past, the recent past, I got the Ten of Swords, which is about hitting an emotional rock bottom. I think they had to blow up about his pregnancy and where her career was going. I think there was a lot of discord in their relationship. Here she is, 8.5 months pregnant, and he takes off for Europe.
I know, that was weird. I know. I wonder, that's why. Was he doing a film or?
Yeah, he was working on a movie.
Right.
But that just, to me, that's really hard to understand. So at the time of the crime, moving towards her future, the need to defend herself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is a double-barreled meaning. She needed to defend herself in her marriage and her role in her marriage, and she needed to physically defend herself. I just thought this was so weird how this laid itself out. Here she is, the Page of Swords. The Page of Swords reversed.
How long had they been married? But do you know before she?
Not very long, a couple of years. Yeah, because I remember their marriage. They got married at like the Justice of the Peace City Hall place, and I think they got married. I don't want to misspeak. I think they got married in England, and she was in a lace miniskirt with daisies in her hair. I mean, it was so on point for the time. And I remember my mother was horrified. So,
your mom thought it was ridiculous. Yeah, that makes sense.
Too much thigh.
Oh, okay.
So, the Page of Swords reversed in the environment of the lovers. See, and I think this is difficulty in relationships. I think her attention and time in this moment before her death were really given over to the discord in her marriage and the conflict between what direction she was going to take, and she was just all in on having this baby. She was besotted with it. Everybody said that's all she could talk about, all she could do. There's a few videos of her in her backyard, and she's holding up little booties and patting her belly, and really, really, really into it. But poor communication. This goes with poor communication, and I think he wasn't the great communicator, and there's a reason, and it's really creepy. Okay, so hopes and fears. Look at this, the Four of Swords. I think she really struggled. She wanted to pull back from acting, but she feared pulling back from acting for all the reasons we mentioned. And ultimately the outcome, strength crossed by the Hermit. She was forced to withdraw. She was forced to leave it all behind. It's absolutely astounding to me, in keeping with what you saw in her chart.
Interesting. I was just looking at their charts together while you were talking to see what their kind of dynamics would have been like.
I can hardly wait to talk about Roman Polanski, because I didn't talk about him that I can remember, because it was before yesterday. In the videos I made, I don't remember talking much about him. I've heard about his life before. Let's do him next, because it's important.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I'm looking at him actually too around that time.
Do you want? Why don't you tell me what you see? Because I'm always fascinated at how it agrees with the reality of what happened.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I was just trying to see what was going on the day she was murdered. For him.
Him?
Yeah.
That's August 9th of 69.
Yeah. Saturn squaring Mercury, and Saturn squaring is Saturn. So I was just looking at their charts together, and they do have a lot of like karmic stuff. I could see why they were married, but it may not have necessarily been an easy relationship because of that either. Okay, so let's just talk about him a little bit. He's got a South Node Sun conjunction in Leo.
Didn't she, or did Charlie?
No, he had a Venus. She had a Venus nodal conjunction, interestingly. And in this case, again, their nodes are the two of them. So this is something you see a lot in relationships too, or in families as well. So the nodes, her node is right on his sun, exactly conjunct his sun at 24 degrees. Her south node is on his north node. So they have known each other before. And that's really a common thing that you see in people that stay together or get married, because there's like this instant sort of identification, like I know you, like you feel so familiar to me. And they have similar issues. And the nodes, because they're karmic, they also function that way. And you see them often, almost always, in family charts. There's nodal conjunctions and all these things. It's like, fate brings you together with these people that you got work to do with, right? And they have very, very much that. I mean, her Venus South Node, part of fortune, are right on his North Node. Her North Node is exactly conjunct his Sun and his South Node. So her Pluto's on his Mercury, exactly. That's another karmic thing. And her Sun and Mercury oppose his Mercury. Her Uranus. So they're both very Uranian. They're both kind of different.
What does Uranian mean?
They're both kind of, left of center, a little different. They don't always fit in. And, they're kind of, in her case, unconventional. And in her case, it's very well integrated into who she is. And she's very comfortable with it. And she's very smart. And things are easy for her in that way compared to him. What she does have issues with it, like I said, and she does tend to like men with that Venus South Node, part of fortune, who are kind of odd and not conventional and a little dark. She could be attracted to men that are a little bit dark as well. So I don't know what other relationships she had, but she may have had some problems in relationships with that Venus South Node.
She was friends with one of the guys that was murdered. I can't remember if it was Jay Sebring. I think he was like a hairdresser to the stars.
Yes. Yeah, I remember that.
I think he was gay.
Yeah, I think so.
And they were very good friends, but I think she had dated. Who was the other guy? I don't remember. I want to show you something. This is their wedding picture.
Okay,
yes, they were married at the English equivalent of the Justice of the Peace in London.
Oh, it's hard to see. It's very blurry.
I'm sorry. Does that help? No.
No, not really. It's super blurry.
Off this light. Does that help?
No, not really. It's still blurry. No, don't do that. That makes it worse. Okay, I kind of got the vibe. Yeah, very mini skirt.
Victorian lace collar.
Yeah, right.
I'd forgotten about that part. Yeah. So shall I tell you about Roman?
Okay, well, let me do Roman here a little bit before we go back. Let me get it. Take you out of this so I can go back.
That was kind of both of their charts put together.
Yeah, I mean, and Jupiter is on her. I mean, you can see why they got married. Okay, so yeah, Polanski here on his own, having a Sun South Node conjunction in Leo. He really, in the 11th, he's pretty eccentric. And also, Libra rising, Mars in the first. Okay. And he's got Uranus trining his sun too, and scoring his moon, Pluto. Well, he's a pretty eccentric guy, pretty unusual, and probably known for that with Uranus and Sirius being in the 7th. People saw him as being kind of odd, and supposing as Mars. Maybe brilliant. Maybe people thought he was a genius, and her too. But women weren't given that title usually, but she was probably just as smarter than him, which is one of the things that connected them. He's got Venus and Jupiter conjunct in the 12th in Virgo. He could be kind of hard on his people that he's probably very particular and critical in relationships. And he's got this Moon Pluto conjunction. He could be very controlling as well. His mother was probably very strong character, very domineering probably. And I don't know anything about him, honestly. He's got Saturn Aquarius, which also implies, especially with men, even though it's trining his ascendant, that his father was harsh, maybe didn't like him, thought he, was very different than him. And so I would think his mother kind of ruled the roost there, and he was probably closer to his mom than he was to his father. He's got that 12th house Venus, so there's secret romantic stuff, secret love, secret, and Jupiter means that there's like kind of
infidelity.
Yeah, he's got that signature of somebody who does, you can't. He's secretive with romance and relationships, and Virgo is interesting because it's virginal. And I think he like accused of, and it's interesting because Epstein has similar markers with the Pisces, Venus being male. That could be an interest in younger women and women who are like perceived to be pure in some kind of way, and kind of secret romantic relationships with women like that. It inconjuncts his Uranus, so it's not integrated into how people saw him, so he hid that stuff. I think, wasn't he accused of like molesting the girl who was in that movie Tess later in his life? Isn't he a pedophile? I mean, wasn't he accused of being a pedophile?
He's in all kinds of trouble. That's why he's not in the United States, because they would arrest him at the border.
Because he's a pedophile, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that Venus Jupiter Virgo thing in the 12th. And also he's got the South Node Sun conjunction in Leo. Okay. So again, there's this shadow stuff about children needing to be loved, needing to be adored. And it plays out in his chart in a kind of perverse thing about, children. And his own kind of Saturn and Aquarius thing, probably not feeling like, and supposing it's Mercury. He's kind of he's a weird character. I would say, he's really got two different sides to his personality. That one's very hidden, and the public side. For many years, he's probably seen as this, brilliant, warm, eccentric genius. This great director, Pluto Moon and Cancer, who's in control, but really he's got this other secret life that no one knew about.
Well, he's made some bizarre movies. Remember, he made Rosemary's Baby.
Rosemary's Baby, yeah.
Okay.
Shadow stuff.
Dying to tell you about him.
Okay.
I had forgotten all about this until I looked it up yesterday. So he was born in Paris in 1933. Significant year, right, in European history. But his family came from Poland. Mm-hmm. And I don't know which generation, if it was grandparents or great-grandparents, but they were, his mother and father didn't immigrate, but they were fairly recent as a family in France, right? But he's born there, and then shortly after that, his family moved back to Poland. Now, his mother was part Jewish. His father was part Jewish, a little more distant to the father, but still, they were both Jewish. So they go back into the belly of the beast to Poland.
Wow.
Right?
Why?
It didn't say. They went to Krakow. They ended up in the Krakow ghetto.
Huh.
So he, at the age of 6, is in this Nazi ghetto.
Wow.
His mother was 4 months pregnant when she was gassed at Auschwitz.
Oh my God. No wonder all that shadow.
He was on his own. He escaped somehow or got out somehow as a child and lived on the streets. He fended for himself. from about the age of 10. He eventually ended up being reunited with his father, but there was no there. You know?
Right. There's a
Right.
weird problem there. with the
Right.
father. Yeah. it's not
So
good.
does that not set somebody up for issues with women and pregnancies?
Yeah, and also, and with little girls too, like having issues with little girls.
That's right.
And
Because you can
virginal
only imagine
women.
what life was like on the street for children in that chaotic time. Predators had a field day, adult and children who were predators. You know, I know that this is Poland, but in Germany, at the end of the war, something like 90% of the women were, you know, I don't want to use the word here on YouTube, but they were, you can imagine,
Grape.
You're not supposed to say it on YouTube.
I said grape. Not
yes, like
grape.
juice, right?
I'm using someone else's
by
word for that.
Soviet
Right.
usually, but there were a lot of people, just homeless, refugee, traumatized, violent people everywhere. And it didn't matter if you were 8 years old or if you were
Wow.
88. It was, I mean, I've read a couple of books about it.
Right.
It's shocking. Yeah.
Wow.
So groups of children, little gangs of children, were like feral dogs. There were so many children living wild in the rubble of all the major cities of Europe. It was really bad. I don't think we pay enough attention to the results of war. That's what happened. Children who were kidnapped from Ukraine by the marauding German army because they were blonde and blue-eyed. They just ripped babies away from their families. If they were a cute little blonde, you go into the ditch and get shot. But the child is obviously Aryan, and they sent them back to Germany.
Wow.
Tons of orphanages full of these little blonde, blue-eyed children. Nobody knew who they were because they were pre-speaking before they were. You know,
wow, that's awful.
Horrifying. Anyway, that's his background. I think that explains so much about him. That
very weird background.
So here we get the center of his reading is the world reversed, crossed by the Knight of Swords. Detached emotionally, his thinking is harsh. You know, when people grow up as children in that kind of environment, they present as unfeeling and often not, I'm generalizing, unthinking, unfeeling, and kind of angry.
Right.
I very casually, she was a person at a bakery where I grew up. I remember her as this awfully angry person who wouldn't make eye contact, who was gruff to all the patrons. And I often wondered as a kid, you know, why did they let her get away with that? Until one day as a teenager, I saw the tattoo on her arm.
Oh, wow. Right.
Okay. I don't need any more explanation other than that. But his progress in life was just cut short at a very, very young age.
I think, well, again, he has the South Node conjunction to his sun. It's exact at 24 degrees Leo too. That is a very kind of dark, and Leo rules childhood, very dark kind of childhood, and Saturn in Aquarius. So, I mean, if he wasn't born there, he still would have had a hard time. That's really extreme what he went through. I mean, you know.
Yeah, an extreme version of the potential that is charted.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
But in his atmosphere, the Two of Cups reversed. His life was dominated by broken relationships. Yeah,
that makes sense. That's Uranus in the 7th. He natally has that.
Yeah. And at the foundation, the Seven of Cups reversed. This talks about a mindset that's confused and deluded, and you're always chasing fantasies. It's not a stable foundation. Remember her chart. Her cards, rather, were all about instability at home, and not, you know, it could be defined as the chaos that Manson family wrought in that moment. But they came into an atmosphere where things were uncertain and relationships were a little bit dicey. Maybe on the surface they looked okay, but underneath there was something going on there.
Well, it's interesting because when I looked at his chart for when she passed, it's not really that extreme, like considering her death, being murdered. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure I was super surprised. Like, he doesn't have like aspects that would have, I mean, I don't know how he handled it, but I mean, I don't know anything really about him, but it kind of didn't look like he probably would have, and I hate to say this, but like, I don't know how rattled he really was
Well,
from it.
there's a famous picture of the day after they were murdered. Well, the day after the bodies were found. He flew back from Europe, and he's at the house, and he's sitting on the front stoop of the house by the front door, where they had written, I think, pigs on the front door in her blood.
Right. Wow.
And he was sitting there just sort of in shock, I would say.
Right.
Yeah. His response was muted.
Mm-hmm.
And he was emotional. He cried at the funeral.
Sure.
Because this was everywhere on all the news, just 24/7 when it happened. Yes, he was upset. He had sunglasses.
Yeah, he had
on.
Neptune's for his son that day. Yeah. Yeah, and in conjuncting his Uranus and Pluto on his progressed sun, I guess, and Uranus on his Jupiter. So he wasn't expecting this, obviously.
Oh, no.
And the moon on the
He
Pluto.
had, I mean, this was like random. There's never been any question. He didn't have anything to do
No,
with
he
it.
didn't. No. But and he would have been upset, but yeah, it's interesting to see the Saturn. But I think you're right about there being trouble in the relationship, because Saturn was going through his 7th house, squaring his Mercury and his Saturn. So it seems like maybe he left in a situation before this happened where things were not great. Probably.
They were at odds. Well, look at the recent past for him.
What?
The recent past for him was the
Right.
6 of Wands reversed. I get this, unsettled feeling about their relationship.
Yeah, I think that's right.
I think he wanted her to keep acting, and she wanted to spend time with this baby. And I don't think he really had all that much. I mean, there was a level of emotional connection, but you're right, it was muted. And I think he couldn't help it. He didn't learn,
Right.
What's it, at that developmental moment where you learn attachment.
Right.
He was crawling through the sewers of Krakow.
Right.
Trying to survive.
It's horrible. Why would they go back there during the Holocaust? It doesn't make any sense.
They went back there in 1933. 1933 was kind of like 1923 in the United States. It was the beginning of everything. Hitler just came into power in 1933.
Well, it's like somebody moving to the U.S. in 2016 or something like that.
Yeah, well, yeah. So look at who I got for moving forward in this moment in time for Roman Polanski.
The devil. Wow. That's pretty. But you know what? The devil card, I just want to say, comes up a lot in the entertainment industry because of the system.
Yeah.
The system of it.
Yep.
Yeah, because it's very intense and harsh, and like people are treated like slaves.
You could easily just write this off to being Manson. Easy enough because of the situation in their lives.
Sure.
However, I think this is talking more about all of what you would call the toxic attachment.
Yes.
That he's made ever since.
Definitely. Yeah.
This explains, not excuse, but it explains all these allegations, and his wife is the inevitable result of the damage that happened to him. And he gets into a marriage where, for all intents and purposes on the surface, they were well suited and they were doing together.
Right.
But
then he lost her though. Oh, and then she got murdered on top of it.
And it opened that raw wound of it happened to his mother when his mother was pregnant.
Yes, that's right.
That's just too much. Too
yeah,
much.
That's true. That's very true.
So
it's interesting as a Moon Pluto conjunction in Cancer too.
Yeah.
That's so literal.
His environment, the King of Cups reversed in the environment of the Three of Pentacles. And I got this about not learning what he needed to learn from past mistakes, past life, past karma, just not making the progress, being constantly having the trauma reinforced.
Right.
Rather than learn from that, wallowing in it, just
Yeah.
running with it, right?
Yep.
And
that's part of that sun nodal thing too.
well, this is his hopes and fears, the Eight of Cups.
Oh,
So
interesting.
not
Walking
able to
away.
leave the past, just incapable of leaving the past behind. And it's almost, the message here is he didn't do anything to get help.
Right. That's right. Yeah. And yeah. Right. He didn't process it.
This is the outcome, and it's almost like a message, you know. The outcome is the Seven of Pentacles crossed by the Ten of Cups. If you do the hard work, you get the emotional payoff.
Right. That's right. That's true.
How weird is it? Their cards are so accurately reflecting their chart and their astrological chart. I mean, you could practically write the story of their lives, never knowing the story of their lives. It's weird to me.
Yeah, but I think, again, like, you know, the extremeness that he went through, if he was born somewhere else, it would have been bad, but it wouldn't have been that bad. You know, or like Manson, you know, there's probably other people born on that day that didn't have it as bad as Manson. So the level in which that story is kind of like, is it level 1 or is it level 10? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, where are they?
You know, where are they on that spectrum?
Evolution?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, who's to say? You know, only they would know, right?
Yeah.
Let's do Dennis Wilson.
Okay.
Because Dennis Wilson was Charlie Manson's entree into the music world.
Yes.
Kind of. He met a guy in prison.
Oh, I have Brian, not Dennis. Okay. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There are a few of them.
Yeah.
He was in prison with a guy that was peripherally involved in the music world. He was like some kind of like recruiter person. I can't remember the term for it. Like he would find new talent. And he got in trouble for some sort of fraudulent business thing, which is why he was in prison. So he kissed up to Manson in prison and said, oh, yeah, you're so talented. I'll get you a job when you get out. Because, you know, make it nice to keep his life even healed within the prison. So it fed this notion for Charlie that, oh, well, I am talented. The guy from Hollywood says I am, and he's going to get me a job and it's going to be great. So he gets out of prison and he's, you know, there's all sorts of stuff going on. Awful coincidence. One day, two of the women in the family were hitchhiking on Pacific Coast Highway there by Malibu. And oh, that's right. You know the area, so I can talk about it, and you'll know what I'm talking about. And they were on their way up to Laurel Canyon, and they put their thumbs out, and they got a ride from a young surfer dude. It was Dennis Wilson. They didn't know who he was, so he takes them to his house, and it's a real nice kind of fake rustic, you know, Hollywood rustic in Laurel Canyon, and eventually they get Charlie Manson to come up. They tell him, yeah, we're at this guy's house. His name is Dennis Wilson. And he goes, what? And so I'm coming immediately. And he shows up. So that was how they met. And it's interesting how it unfolded. So you have his chart. What does it say?
Yeah. Okay. So Dennis Wilson has a lot of nodal stuff too. He's got the South Node in Venus conjunct in Capricorn in the 5th. The vertex and Mercury in Capricorn also conjunct his South Node in the 5th. He's got Saturn and Make conjunct his North Node in Cancer. And he's got a Pluto Moon conjunction. So there's a theme here. And it trines his Sun, Mars in Sagittarius, which also trines his ascendant in Leo. So, so he's pretty lucky. Okay, I just have to say Jupiter's in Virgo here in the 2nd. He's got that Mars Sun conjunction in Sag, trining his Moon Pluto, and a lot of things probably fell into place for Dennis Wilson, pretty easily, and it opposes his Uranus. He's not dumb. He's got some talent, but it was probably a lot of it was a bit of an accident. Saturn in conjunct Sismos. I think he's the cousin, isn't he, of Brian Wilson?
No, that's the shorter guy that kind of went bald. What was his name? Mike Love.
Okay, Mike Love. So is this guy his
Brian
brother?
and Dennis are brothers.
Okay, so I mean, he's got some talent himself, but he probably wouldn't have become what he became without his brother. I would have bet you. So because this is kind of a luck signature here, and it's trying to. So that Moon Pluto conjunction in the 12th there's some kind of like an hidden or secret kind of control thing that he's got going, and all this South Node stuff in Capricorn and North Node in Cancer. It's interesting now that I know they're brothers. Like Saturn near the node is like a lot of dad issues, which I think, a father who could be nurturing in some ways, but also really harsh and really dark. And in Cancer, it's sort of like he's sort of in control and manipulative as well. In the 11th house is, wanting his dreams fulfilled and probably through his children, because it's opposing the South Node, and the Venus South Node. Mercury is like, this is a tough, he's Mercury Saturn, that the dad is hard on him. And also he's creative, but it's sort of, for a career, his usefulness, he's got to be of use to whoever. And he probably, a lot of his relationships with people in his life were probably transactional because of all this Capricorn in the 5th. So I don't know what the deal is with maybe meeting the Manson girls, I don't know. I mean, that's a lot of 5th house stuff. He probably liked the ladies, but
well, I was just going to say
shadow stuff there.
He was the only one who surfed in the Beach Boys.
Okay. Oh, that's
he
interesting.
Kind of provided them with their image because he had the blonde Beach Boy hair, and the surfer, and he really did surf, which was
right. Well, yeah, I could see that. He's got all that fire in his chart. He's probably very
so I don't know. You ever
yeah.
know surfers?
Yes, I have known.
Obsessed with surfing, and they always like the ladies.
Yeah, that's true. They do like ladies. Yeah. So but with that Venus South Node in Capricorn, it's interesting that the Manson girls met him because he would have a tendency to be attracted to women who are kind of dark, kind of dark. And so he might have he probably liked the bad girls a little bit, or women who have kind of a harsh or kind of dark kind of energy about them. He's got a Jupiter trine to that.
Well, he let the Manson family move into his house. Does that count?
He did?
Oh, they
holy shit. I did not know that. Wow.
Yeah. They took over his complete house. They used and sold belongings. They kind of pillaged his possessions.
Oh my
got
God.
into his money. They took over his entire life. He ended up, without telling them that he was doing this, he rented an apartment elsewhere and kind of moved himself out of the house and just left them to it.
You're kidding. Wow. Wow, so this is what I'm saying about the nodes. He got victimized, right? So you can either be the victim or the perpetrator, but he was victimized in this case by the girls. But he has that kind of he's lucky, but he also has this sort of like shadow stuff where some of it's coming from the dad and the not being nurtured properly and the wanting to be nurtured and feeling like you have to perform or do something in the world. And the women he would be attracted to kind of have that shadow side, like they expect something. He's got to take care of them. He's got to provide them with stuff, you know what I mean? And they use him or whatever. And that's obviously what the trap was there. He got into that trap with those girls. But he got out of it. He's got a Jupiter trine. He's got pretty good luck in other areas of his life. So he's able to pull himself out and not be attacked or hurt by them. But and that's all that shadow stuff. And he's got a Uranus Sun opposition. So he's also very different. He's got the Sagittarius, Sun, and Mars, probably pretty happy-go-lucky. It makes sense. He's really athletic. He's got that Moon Pluto trine, and Leo rising. So they tend to have like, they have a lot. He has a lot of energy. He's, Uranus in the 10th is often a career in music or television. So that makes sense. And Venus rules his 10th. So that's in Capricorn with the South Node. So that's interesting that they literally used him for his connections in the music and business and for his career connections. And that's the ruler is in his 5th with the South Node on it. So that's how he probably wasn't the first or only time he got victimized. That was probably the worst, by people using him for his creativity, for his connections. And that's a horrifying story. I didn't realize that. Okay, so that's basically some of what he's got going on there. And he's got a Neptune trine his Uranus too. So he's very musical and very, he's really bright. He's really, really talented with that Uranus opposition and Neptune trine Uranus. He probably, he might have actually done his own thing, but he's got the kind of laissez-faire kind of chart. Like he's probably not super, he might have been a surfer. Like he might have just done that if he didn't have his father pushing him and all that.
He was a pro. He was pals with Terry Melcher and this other guy whose name I forget. And they called themselves, they had some really reprehensible misogynistic nickname for themselves because they were bragging about their success with women, right? After the murders, he lived in fear the rest of his life.
I bet he did. Yeah.
He hired bodyguards.
Yeah, that's South Node.
Yeah.
Venus.
And he took
dangerous.
drinking and drugging and was really into substance abuse. Do you know how he died?
No.
He deteriorated mentally, and it's hard to say, was it the substances, or was it really mental illness? It's hard to know for sure. But he had a boat down in Marina del Rey, and he was diving off the end of the boat trying to find something he dropped at some point down at the bottom, and he was doing it for a long time. I mean, this wasn't a one jump and then he was gone. He was going down, coming up, not getting out of the water, going back down again, and he just didn't come back up.
That's weird. Yeah.
Can you tell, was it an accident or did he just decide to bail? You know what I mean?
Well, if you look at the time when he killed him or died, it would probably show that.
I might be able to find that. I don't know. Oh, here it is. I can probably get it to the day, but probably not.
Yeah, that's fine. The day is fine. I mean, he definitely could have mental health issues with the nodal stuff too, because that's one of the other incarnations. One of the other iterations of the nodal stuff is it can be mental health stuff. It can be victimization. It can be.
I forgot he was only 39. Oh.
He was only 39?
Only 39. December 28th, 1983.
December 28th, 1983?
Yeah. Diving to recover items from his former boat off in the Marina del Rey.
Former boat?
I guess he had sold the boat, but he was at the boat going down, to
That's
find
weird.
things. Retrieving objects from the belongings from a boat he previously owned. Doesn't say the time of death. But he was
that's okay.
39, but he had degenerated really, really badly. Okay, so his cards say this. His cards are just a reflection of his passivity in these relationships, like allowing himself to be emotionally used, emotionally victimized. So we get the Queen of Cups. I think these are the girls, the Manson girls.
Yeah, right.
Crossed by reverse strength. So this is at the heart of his card reading. He was a compassionate person who let himself be used emotionally.
Yeah, he was used.
Yeah. But to his credit, the cards would have warned him, and he did do this. He innately knew. he walked away. He realized, okay, this is in his atmosphere. I got to make some choices about my connections to people and how I let people use me emotionally.
Right.
I mean,
He learned.
was hot to trot, but he also felt bad for them. You know, he took
Right.
pity on them in a way. They were poor
Right.
things. They're in bare feet, you know.
Well,
And
they're
then-
young and obviously
Yeah.
lost. Yeah.
This is his foundation. Oh, I should cover this. His foundation.
What's
the
what?
star.
The star. Yeah, yeah. Uranus in the 10th.
Which,
yeah.
like you said, he was you know, taking advantage of his rock star reputation
Yes, yeah.
to get stuff. But this it also talks about emotional healing. So he had the opportunity for that. He walked away. He could have gotten his act together. In his recent past, this is breaking. The Eight of Swords is breaking free from that victim mentality. I actually wrote this down. It sounds like you wrote this. Breaking free from the victim mentality, taking responsibility, but he didn't do it because in his future he gets the High Priestess reversed. It's like
right. He internalized it.
Confusion, not knowing
Yeah.
where it is you're going, what you're going to do, ignoring his intuition too. He let his other head do the thinking a lot.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
that's a Sag kind of energy. And I did look at the day he died there. He had Uranus right on his sun square, you know, making a trine to his moon Pluto in the 12th. I think it was an accident. I don't think he killed himself. It was an accident. Yeah.
Well, he was intoxicated.
Well, there you go. Okay. Well, yeah. So
he
it was an accident.
always intoxicated by the time he died. It's really very sad. So for himself and the environment he sits in, I got the Two of Swords reversed in the environment of the Four of Swords. This is like mental conflict, chaos, not being okay, being restless, but also needing. The message of this is he needed to take himself out of these situations,
right, and meditate, think about things, right, and work on himself,
right.
Yeah.
And this is him, the King of Cups reversed in hopes and fears, emotionally not okay, immature, confused,
right,
trouble with relationships, trouble with emotions. I mean, he really needed a lot of help. Look at his brother.
I know his brother is really a mess.
Really sad. Yeah.
Yeah,
these
it's really
things
sad.
can be familial. They can be genetic.
Well, I mean, you look at the dads in his chart and Dennis's chart. It's like dad's a bastard. You know what I mean? And I can only imagine how bad it is for Brian because he was worse on Brian, I think, wasn't he? I don't know.
Oh yeah. You know, Brian was playing a piano that was sitting in a pit of sand in the middle of the living room, you know, because for inspiration. Did you know that?
No.
He had them like a big gigantic sandbox to put the piano in so he could feel the sand on his. I mean, there was a lot going on there. Look, the outcome here is so bad because his purpose in this incarnation was to learn how to deal with his emotions and listen to his intuition, to go within,
cancer stuff.
You know, like we're all supposed to, right?
Right.
And instead, he turned to sensory stuff,
Fifth house,
substances, ego feeding, you know.
Yes, all that fifth house stuff. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so the outcome is the Five of Cups crossed by the Tower.
Well, that makes sense.
Really sad outcome, not good.
Yeah.
I know. I always just assume everybody kind of can relate to the sense of what these mean. Well, the Five of Cups is suffering and pain and unhappiness, and the Tower is disaster and chaos.
Yes, total disaster. Yeah.
In a nutshell.
It's the worst card, I think.
This to me was a very sad reading because he had a lot of potential.
Yeah.
And I think fear played a large part of it. I mean, he was immature and self-indulgent and doing too many drugs. And then this moment happened that colored the rest of his life. I
think that all that fifth house Capricorn and then all the North Node in Cancer and Saturn in Cancer, a lot of it is fear, but also like this feeling of like you said, he used his career to get the chicks he thought he was using them, but he was really the one being used a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And I think he came to probably realize that, and it probably really overwhelmed him with sadness and depression, and like how he had entangled himself and without even realizing it. Mm-hmm.
Even when he left and got his own apartment, he knew that the lease was up on this house. He had a lease on it. He didn't own it yet. He was thinking about it, but decided not to. And abandoned Charlie Manson and his girls to the house without telling them. So the landlord, lucky him, got to be the one to tell them, you have to move out. Dennis is gone, you know.
Wow.
But Dennis did keep going to the Spawn movie ranch. You know about that, right?
Yeah, Spawn Ranch, yeah.
So he kept going out there, bringing Terry Melcher and that other guy whose name I can't remember. I should have written it down. The Three Musketeers, you know, and they were going out to avail themselves of the favors of the young ladies. Let's put it that way.
Right.
And we're just stringing Charlie along because they were getting acid and girls.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah.
So should we look at Terry Melcher really quickly, because he was actually the focus of Charlie Manson's animus.
I can't go too much longer for a number of reasons. One of them being
Well, you want to save Terry Melcher and just do a little thing at another time?
That's fine. Yeah, we can do or we can quickly go through him. We'll go quick.
Okay.
So we can get it out of the way. Okay, so Terry Melcher, I have him here. I have no idea anything about him at all. But okay, so here we have well, he's got Gemini with Jupiter right on his ascendant, trining his sun in Aquarius with Mercury in Aquarius. All right, and here's somebody who doesn't have a nodal conjunction. And he's got the moon in Scorpio squaring the sun. He's got an opposition to Saturn, Uranus. So he's a lucky dude. It makes sense. He's in the music industry. He's got the Sun Mercury conjunction Aquarius. He's got a good ear for things. He's got Venus and Sirius in Aquarius. He likes things that are different. He's in the perfect career for someone to be successful in that world. And that Saturn Uranus squaring in Taurus is Sun Mercury and Mars, and he's really aesthetically attuned and harsh too, like a harsh judge. Like he knows what works and what doesn't work. He's got all these squares. He's very ambitious. He's got Neptune and Virgo. It looks like in the fifth, he probably had some musical ability himself, training in Uranus, Saturn. I don't know anything about him, but I would say he probably had a musical maybe background or interest. Like even as a kid, he might have played some kind of instrument. And he certainly has a musical sensibility. That moon in Scorpio squaring his sun, he could be a little ruthless, probably a little harsh. I don't, again, know anything about him. But he's very big picture type of personality. He's got that Pluto Venus in opposition. So that's somebody who likes to sort of, especially in this context, because it's in the ninth and sort of near his 10th house. It's part of a stellium in Aquarius. He probably liked to mold artists, and he saw himself as being, really part of the process of the creativity and as a guide a lot of the time. Maybe he felt like he couldn't do it himself, but he could help other people achieve that.
Well, he wasn't a musician.
Okay, but he probably, that makes sense.
His mother and father were. His mother was Doris Day.
His mother was Doris Day. Oh, wow.
You didn't know that? Yeah.
No.
His mother was Doris Day. His father was some kind of band leader or something.
Okay, that's the Neptune trine.
And he stumbled into this plum career. He was the right age, the younger generation.
He was probably good at it, though. He was good at it.
Showed up in Laurel Canyon. He went to his mother's connections and said, you should really record these people. They're really good. And they didn't know what to make of these long-haired hippie groups. So they said, well, why don't you come on and be our eyes and ears on the ground and let us know? And he kind of developed this into a producer.
So was he a producer or an A&R guy?
He was a record producer.
Yeah. So, he was a record. That makes sense. But that is, you do have to be musical to be a record producer.
Well, I'm sure he must have been, given his genetic background.
Yeah,
but
you have to be.
He wasn't a performer. Let's put it that way.
Right. That's what that Pluto-Venus opposition is about, him expressing his creativity through helping out other people.
Right.
Yeah, about kind of nurturing them. But he definitely.
He was ruthless.
I bet you he really had a good ear, though. I mean, he's perfect for that, being a record producer. I mean, he may not have been able to make the music himself or felt comfortable being good enough at it with that Venus retrograde, but he could definitely spot talent like nobody's business.
Yeah, he did. And he lived with Candace Bergen for a while, and she was the hot young thing,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a time for male-female relationships. And there was certainly this attitude of women had to fit a certain standard and men got a pass.
Yes.
In their behavior, in their looks, in every aspect, right? And their relationship was off again, on again.
Yeah, he was probably not the best part. I would not think he'd be a good
and she
romantic
was too
partner.
Good for him because she was very well educated. She was kind of from East Coast, upper crust.
Right.
Her father was Edgar Bergen.
Yes.
The puppet guy,
Right. Yeah, I can't remember the puppet. Yeah, really ventriloquist.
And she was Ivy League, all of that. She ended up on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah. I know who she is.
For a while. Yeah. She left. They would constantly back and forth. His parents and then his mother's his stepfathers, really bad,
Huh.
There was
he's got a little bit of Aquarius in his chart, and that's neglect. That's also, an indicator that he would have had a lot of neglect growing up, a lot of issues probably with dad. He's got a Saturn Uranus squaring the sun and Mercury. Father, the dad, erratic father, maybe an angry dad. A lot of
Doris was abused.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Violence, yeah, and neglect. And he was probably neglected. He's got the South Node in Pisces in the 10th and the North Node in Virgo in the 4th. So there's a lot of like feeling victimized and and fear growing up, and being picked on, feeling like, the dad very critical of him, So he doesn't have an easy chart, and that Moon Saturn and Uranus is also the mom being put upon, and her holding secrets and stuff like that, and not talking about this stuff, squaring his son, and feeling his mother being oppressed by the father.
He saved her career. Her last husband, before all this stuff happened, was embezzling her money, pocketing her money.
Wow.
And she found out she had almost nothing left. And Terry moved into her house, stepped into the business for her, and revived her career, got her a TV show, a daytime TV show.
Wow.
And do you remember the Doris? You probably don't remember. I remember the Doris Day show. He saved her career single-handedly.
Yeah, well, he's really a pretty smart guy, actually. And he's very ambitious, and he's got a good head for like seeing people's talents and abilities and being able to help them get where they need to go. So, I mean, I could see where he fits the guy who's like behind the scenes, kind of pulling the strings, and knows how to put people where they belong and how to make deals. I mean, he's a very good business person, I bet.
Well, he also was freaked out and got protection and tried to lay low. And
I don't blame him.
To have a career, and he died in the early 2000s of cancer. I can give you his cards really quickly. We don't have to belabor them. So at the heart of it, it fell on the floor. I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Okay, all right, sorry about that. At the heart of it, I got the Seven of Pentacles crossed by the reverse Five of Cups. So trying to prioritize work with money and focusing on the future. This guy was ambitious and driven and willing to do the hard work required to be successful. In the atmosphere, I got the Queen of Wands reversed. This is losing personal power because you're manipulative and self-centered. So I think that's got more to do with his romantic relationships. Work was a separate issue.
Yeah, he was probably controlling in his relationships with that Pluto.
Oh Oh yeah,
Venus
because she
opposition.
wasn't going to
Yeah.
put up with any of that. At the
Yeah.
foundation, I got the reversed 8 of Swords, which is needing freedom,
Mhm.
needing
Yeah.
clarity.
All that
Yeah,
Aquarius. Yeah.
and he needed to get out from under this hounding by Charles Manson. He was always pesterizing him, calling him, trying to get in touch,
Wow.
showing up at the recording studio, and they kind of placated him. They let him record a couple of songs, but they really didn't have any interest in the long
Right.
run.
Well, Melcher has got too much of an eye for talent, and Manson
Yeah.
wasn't talented enough.
Which
Yeah.
this is definitive, isn't it? The 8 of
Yeah,
Cups, walking
walking
away.
away.
He
Yeah.
knew when to just cut things off with somebody, which he did
Yes.
in his professional life all the time.
Yeah.
In
He
the
is.
future, he was
Strong.
strong. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. He had a lot of. He was very stubborn too.
Of all the people involved in this terrible tragedy, he probably came out the least scathed.
Oh, for sure. Yes. Right? And he's the only one that we've looked at so far that doesn't have a bunch of nodal. Yeah, nodal conjunctions. Yeah.
Right. So this is him, the Magician reversed with the did I do that right? Wait a minute. Yes, I wasn't sure if it had been reversed or not. So he went through a period after this murder, because this is the time period we're talking about. After these murders, he had kind of a dark moment of the soul. He was like, oh, and I've made some terrible mistakes about who I associated with, like really bad life and death type of mistakes, and I didn't successfully, like the magician, kind of a manipulating person, right? A person who can manifest anything. I didn't do so well in this situation, but hopes, that from now on, moving forward, I'm going to do things differently. Is what I'm getting out of this. So he made a choice. This is the outcome. He made a choice. He used his and showed some kind of good judgment, and it was like an epiphany for him. It was a moment of reckoning for him, and he made the right choice. He's the only one of all.
Yeah, he's the only one that doesn't have a nodal conjunction either, which is interesting and tells you he wasn't.
How powerful that is. Yeah,
that is very powerful. That people are getting sucked in by the shadow stuff, and that's how they ended up in the orbit around Manson. Yeah.
So we didn't do any of the women.
Well, we'll do it next time.
No, I didn't do any of the women.
Okay. Oh, you didn't do the women.
No, because there's so many of them, and they were all cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. So
yes.
Come on,
But they're interesting, though. I think they're
do you want to maybe do a separate one someday soon?
Yeah, sometime. Yeah, like Susan Atkins and all. They're really quite weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the From.
Squeaky From.
Squeaky From. I mean, just the main few. They're really weirdos. I think they'd be interesting to look at.
In the meantime, we have our next case picked out. We're not going to talk about it, but I have to research it, and I haven't even started, and it's a lot. So it may be a little while. By the time people watch this video with us today, I will have published number 4. I haven't published that yet. And it's the one that's a little psychoanalytic, behavioral analysis, and kind of literary. It's really interesting. I hope everybody enjoyed it. If you're watching this and you didn't look at that video and you had to choose one of the videos on Charlie Manson, I really recommend number 4.
Okay, so we'll talk about that in a second. But so I was also thinking at some point there is a missing, we'll talk about this too, a guy who was part of the UFO stuff, who's a colonel. I would like to look at that in this context maybe at some point, or maybe do a video about that. Try to see if we can figure out what happened.
We can do that like in the interim, because that was quick to research.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, I think. We'll look into that too.
Promises.
All right. Excellent.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Denise.
Thank you, Helen. Love you. Bye.
Bye.